Um, he also got married. He got married in Medina to a Yemeni sister, Hind. And I suppose the story of the Adhan. So the call to prayer. One day, Abdullah ibn Zayd came to the Prophet. Actually, they were talking about, now that they're in the city, how do we get the Muslims to come to prayer on time? How do we get the Muslims to come to prayer on time? So, obviously they were a group. There were a lot of people working out in the fields, working outside of town. They didn't have any way to get them. They were thinking about a bell, like the Christians do, or they were thinking about a big clapper, something to make a big noise so that people could come by. And they were going to build this thing. But then one day, Abdullah ibn Zayd, another companion, came to the Prophet and said, I had a dream. And in this dream, there's this guy in green clothes, and he came to me and he said, and he was actually carrying a clapper, and I went up to him and said, can I get that? Can I get that clapper off you? We want to use it to make the call to prayer so everyone can come. And the green man said, I've got a better idea for you. And he told him the call to prayer. And so this is what he told the Prophet. And the Prophet said, that is a pure dream. Go to Bilal and tell him to come here and teach him that, and get him on top of the roof and get him to recite that. So that's the story of the Adhan. A lot more sort of happened. Yeah, there's a lot to go through, but I might just keep going because I'm conscious of the time. Yeah, okay. We'll get to the death of the Prophet ﷺ. And as I said, Bilal said he would never do the Adhan again. And what happened was, he was so distraught by the loss of the Prophet that he wanted to leave Medina. He couldn't bear to be there. So he asked Abu Bakr, who was now the leader of the Muslims, he said, Abu Bakr, let me leave Medina, I want to go away. Abu Bakr said, no, please stay with us, please stay with us. And because they had such a close relationship, Bilal said, all right, okay, but I can never do the Adhan again. And so that was the case. For 2 years, he stayed in Medina again, until Abu Bakr died. And that was his last sort of great friend. And Umar, radiallahu anh, became the next leader of the Muslims. And Umar couldn't refuse Bilal's request to leave, to go away. And it's interesting because Umar said, Abu Bakr was our master, and Abu Bakr freed our master. This was the reverence that they had for this humble, black slave, or used to be slave, who was in the service of Muhammad for such a long time. So he left. He went to Syria. He went to fight in some of the battles in Syria, and that's where he based himself. And when the Muslims conquered Jerusalem, Bilal was in one of those parties, and he was there in Jerusalem when Umar came, and Umar asked him, this is such a great event, such a historic event, you must say the Adhan. And he did. He said the Adhan. The final time Bilal said the Adhan was when he was in his 60s. He was getting old, and he was living in Syria. This was not long before he passed away. And he went back to Medina, and he went back to the Prophet's mosque to reflect, to pray there and to reflect. And this was a big deal for him because he hadn't been back for about 5 or 10 years. So this was the first time back since he left after Abu Bakr died. And that's where some people noticed him. In fact, these two young men noticed him, Hassan and Hussein, the grandchildren of the Prophet. And they noticed him and said, Ya Bilal, what wonderful it is to see you. Please do the Adhan. And Bilal said, no, I can't do the Adhan. It just ruins me, I can't do it. And they said, please do it for us. And the people around said, how can you say no to the grandchildren of the Prophet ﷺ? How can you say no? These are the leaders of paradise, these two young men. And Bilal, as humble as he was, he got up to do it one more time. And he got up to the roof. And this is the first time that Bilal did it since the Prophet had died in Medina. And so the people around, 5-10 years later, they heard this again. They heard it. Bilal, that's Bilal. And they started weeping. They started crying. It was so moving because they hadn't heard it before for such a long time. And it took their memories back to the time of the Prophet, a different world for them. And that was the last time that Bilal made the adhan. He returned to Syria, and within the next year he died in the arms of his wife. And there's a lot more to tell you about him, but I'll leave it at that. Just to share with you, I think, yes, he's known because he was a former slave. He's known because slavery and because he was black. And Muslims today go, this is equality. You know, the Muslims treated Bilal, revered him so much. He was a slave, but he contributed so much to Islam. But it was his character, his humility. And he never accepted anyone putting him up to the status of Abu Bakr, which some people did. And he said, no, I am just a good deed of Abu Bakr. Look, thanks for listening to me. I'm going to sit back with you and enjoy the rest of the night. Yeah, it's lovely to be up here with you. Jazakallah khair and assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.